Welcome to Paragon Annex Studio 6, and today we're going to walk through how to connect this modular to the rest of the studio to be controlled by the computer and the keyboard. At the heart of the studio is an Avid HDX PCIe sound card. As this studio has an iMac, we have to install the PCIe card in a Magma chassis which is connected to the iMac via a Thunderbolt cable. The only connections on the HDX card are the Avid DigiLink cables, which we will use to connect to a RedNet 5. The RedNet 5 can then convert this data stream to a network audio data stream. This then allows us to connect the RedNet 5 to a network switch, which will in turn connect to the input and output devices. An Ethernet cable also connects the computer to the switch, and this enables us to use the Dante controller software to communicate to the following input and output devices. The RedNet 2 has 16 channels of analog input and outputs. These analog inputs and outputs are generally normaled to the desk. The RedNet 3 in this studio is a complete overkill for what we need. It has 32 channels of digital inputs and outputs, and we are only using output 1 of the ADAT connection, which will connect to the ES3. The modular itself has a patch panel on here labelled trunk lines, and these trunk lines connect directly to the patch bay. Here we can see trunk lines 1 and 2 are directly above line inputs channels 6 and 7 of the mixing desk. The red colouring of these numbers indicate to us that with no cables plugged in, trunk lines 1 and 2 automatically go to line inputs 6 and 7 of the mixing desk. So if we connect a mini jack to the square wave output of this oscillator and we go into trunk line 1, so channel 6 is here, and because the oscillator is a 10 volt peak to peak signal, it's very loud compared to mixing desks, so we're going to make sure the gain is right down and we press the mic line button. Now we can see we've definitely got a signal. We can swap the meter over to the large meter so we can see what's going on. We can then send this signal to the mix bus so we can hear it through the speakers, and we will also need to send this signal to the computer, so we shall send it using bus 1 to show up on input 1 on your door. On the oscillator we'll switch it to standard tuning mode, and this will enable us to use the 1 volt per octave CV input here. Okay, so the first connection to the ES3 is the output 1 we're going to connect to the CV in 1 volt per octave input on the oscillator. Okay, so we're in Pro Tools now. The first thing we're going to do is create a new mono instrument track. The mono instrument track enables us to use the sidechain on the input here. So that was from bus 1, so we'll choose input 1. And we shall load up the Silent Way voice controller plugin. And if I put that on input monitor and we select the correct output, which will be 1718, but it's labelled B1 and 2 on the I/O setup here. Now if I press the keyboard, we can see the light flash on the ES3. Okay, let's also make an audio track. And I can add this audio track into the video so you can hear what's going on. And I'm going to mute it for now. And there's our signal. So if we press the calibrate button, this plugin will then scan the entire voltage range of the oscillator, and the plugin will listen to the pitch of each note and scale it accordingly to be perfectly in tune. So now I can play that from the keyboard. But obviously we have a constant note, so we need to gate this signal by using the gate pulse, which is coming out of output 2, and we're going to put this gate signal into the envelope. The audio signal from the VCO we will then put through a VCA, so that's going into the signal input and coming out and then back into the trunk line. So there we can see. So if we turn the initial gain down and we connect the output of the envelope into the CV input. Now when I play the keyboard, we have notes and gate. Okay, let's say you want to add a bit of modulation to a filter cutoff. I've written some notes here so we can hear what's going on. But what we need to do first is create a new, this time stereo instrument track. We're going to load up a clocked LFO. So we want instrument, Silent Way LFO, and then this will come out of the next pair of outputs. Let's just add a slow saw, fast saw going up. And as you can see, we have it on the ES3 now. So in this plugin we can set the divisor to transport, and this means it will go perfectly in time with the track. We can change the speed of the LFO here. I'll show you that in a second. Okay, so instead of going straight to the VCA, we're going to run that through the filter. So we'll go signal into the filter, out of the filter, back into the VCA. Now we can see we have now going through the filter. And if we connect the LFO, which should be on output 3 now here, to the CV input of the filter, we could speed that up here. We could change that to a sine wave. Or we can make it go very fast.